Hey guys, I'm Azra, and in this Lord of the Rings Rise to War video, I'm going to show you a guide about Theoden. Right out the bat, I must say that I have mixed feelings about Theoden. In the first two seasons, I had such great experience with him. He was by far my #1 choice in PvP as well as in PvE. But something has changed. I think right now, after people have started getting their whalish gear, like having really good gear and understand the game much better, Theoden is being countered in many ways. I will show you that in the reports part later in this video. But let's get going with the general overview. So Theoden, he is a leader commander, which means once he hits level 20, he gets a bigger army than non-leader commanders. In regards to his stats, one can clearly see that his highest stat is speed, followed by might. And that's okay, we would like to push these two stats only. His speed stat makes a lot of sense, since he has some abilities that scale with speed. And the more might, the more damage we deal. So it is kinda self-explanatory that we want to push these two stats. Alright, this is the gear I'm wearing right now, just for your curiosity, but we will talk about the items later in the itemization part. So now, let's have a look what Theoden can do with his skill set. At Respect 0, we have Rohirrim, and I really like this title. Among the strongest abilities he has, this is making your mounted units deal more damage, and this is scaling with speed. So the more speed, the better for us. Once you have maxed it out, you get plus 15 might, even better. Then he has also Riding Excellence. This is great, since this is giving you flat damage mitigation for your mounted units, and this is against every source of damage, be it physical or elemental. And by the way, I must correct myself. In my videos from before, I said there are 3 types of damage, one being normal type, one being physical type, and the third one being elemental. I have now seen in some reports that normal attacks are considered physical damage. So we only have 2 sources of damage, elemental and physical. I apologize for that. Moving on with his Respect 0 skill over here called Cleave. Every 3 rounds it's going to get activated. You will attack one enemy target with some physical damage, which also scales with speed. So putting 1 point into this can make sense because of that very reason. It scales with speed. At his top 3, he has the title Renewed. This takes effect every 2 rounds, starting with round 2. It removes a debuff from the commander as well as from the allied units. If you max this out, it will be 100% every 2 rounds. This is very reliable cleanse. Theoden can also heal his units with reinforcement, but this only counts once he reaches round 7, and then 2 of his allied units get a kind of burst healing, you could say. And then we have Defensive Stance. This activates every 3 rounds. It targets one enemy unit, deals a bit of physical damage against it, and also gives one of your units some damage mitigation, which is scaling with the might stat. At Respect 3, and I think after getting Theoden to Respect 3, he starts getting useful. You could use this commander to do some PvE, for example. Arid Leader is giving you self-sustain. Each round, mounted units 75% chance of recovering a certain percentage HP. When you max this out, each round you get this proc 100%. Like, you should get him at least at Respect 3 to consider him useful in PvE. His bottom 3 has Mounted Combat, and I think this is one of Theoden's strongest skills he has, since this says mounted units 20% chance of dealing an additional certain percentage damage after dealing physical damage. And this counts for every unit on the field. If you have 3 different units in your army composition, that's 3 times the 20% chance of proccing an additional attack. And this is so strong, but we will come back to this later when we are in the army composition and the reports. And then we have Flanking. This activates every 2 rounds. Theoden selects a random enemy unit and then deals a bit of physical damage against it. But what is so special about this is that it prioritizes ranged units. I think this ability is more usable against Good Side, since Good Side is heavy on ranged units. At Respect 5, we have Horsemaster, and this gives you +1 attack for each skill point spent into this title. So you can have all the way up to plus 15 attack for your mounted units. If it is maxed out, your mounted units also get plus 5 HP. This is his best title he has, and I think this is also among the reasons why he is so competitive. Then we have Chaotic Retreat. This too is a strong mechanic. What this does is it throws a debuff against the enemy army. Each of the enemy units get their defensive stat reduced by a certain point, which means they eat more physical damage. And then we have Vow of Protection. I think it is enough to put just 1 point into this just to get your Theoden's initiative. And this counts only for your commander. Only Theoden will get this. I will show you something in the itemization part with the Reach of the Riddermark and the special effect Battered, where I think that this becomes important, especially against countering Witch Kings. Just a theory, we will see. I will now show you 2 builds, one against good side and one against evil side. Let's start with the build against good side. So, Horsemaster. We need all of our points invested into this. But if you are PvEing and you are still leveling, I think it makes more sense to start with Aeolid Leader, since in the leveling phase we don't want to lose many units. Keep them alive as good as possible. Then, I think it makes sense to move over to Horsemaster. Put all our points over here. Since we still aren't doing PvP, we are still in our PvE phase, we don't need to spend 1 point at the Vow of Protection, that comes later. We can now invest into Chaotic Retreat. 5 points into here is enough for the time being. Then I would immediately move over to Mounted Combat, max this out. We will have 3 different mounted units in our army comp anyway, and that's going to show some damage. Then I would move along with Rohirrim, put all my points here into this, max it out, and whatever points I have left now, I would be spending into Riding Excellence to mitigate more damage. Mounted units are so hard to conscript, so we want to ensure we keep them alive as good as possible with damage mitigation over here. So I have 2 points left, and I would now put 1 point into Vow of Protection, and then I would put 1 point into Cleave. 1 point into this is enough, and this would be my build against good side. Please take note that my Theoden is respect 12, which is why I can afford all of this. If you don't have enough points, take away these points from Chaotic Retreat and then redistribute them into Mounted Combat. Like, I would favor Mounted Combat over Chaotic Retreat. Maybe I would put some points out of Riding Excellence and put them into Mounted Combat as well as Chaotic Retreat. I'm not quite sure which order will scale better, but you get the gist of it. So this is how I would be fighting good side. Against evil side, I'm doing this. I've maxed out Horsemaster right from the start. I put 1 point into Vow of Protection, since we are now ready for PvP. I max out Aeolid Leader, max out Mounted Combat, max out Rohirrim, and whatever points I have left right now, I would be spending into the Renewed, since evil side has a lot of debuffing mechanics. For example, the Dishearten effect of the Undying, or the elemental damage, be it fire damage or poison damage, that can be cleansed with the Renewed. And there you go. So this is my evil side build, and I'm not quite sure if this is the final build. Like, there might be still something that is better against evil side, but right now I am doing much better against evil side than compared to my good side build. I was using my good side build against evil side too, but I'm not quite fond of the reports I got. This works much better. I also tried to move away from his respect 3 tree and redistribute everything into the Renewed as well as into Reinforcement, but it didn't work out like I thought it would. Now let's talk about Theoden's strengths. His first strength would be, in my opinion, he has lots of damage since he increases the damage of his army. Mounted units gets a lot of damage, plus 15. And I think there isn't any other commander in the game right now that does this. This is the highest damage increase in regards to buffing his own army. Theoden is also capable of is, like, he further increases the damage the enemy army receives by reducing their defensive stats. So this is why I say he is boosting the damage of his army. The second strength would be his self-sustain. Aeolid Leader is giving him a reliable source of healing. His third strength would be his speed stat. Theoden has so much speed that he almost doesn't have to worry about it. There are some situations where he has to fight the Convener. I'm looking at you, Witch King, where his speed stat doesn't do him any good, but let's not talk about the Witch King. That's just what it is. He is having the first strike against pretty much everything else that doesn't have Convener. His last strength would be that Theoden has a strong cleansing mechanic. Like, the Renewed is the strongest debuffing mechanic in the game for a commander. I haven't seen anything close to this. I'm talking about the commander by himself, not units. Like, I do know that the Bree Riders have 100% debuffing mechanic on every round. Yes, I am aware of that. But I don't know a commander who does this. And not just only to him, but also to his army. So this is exceptionally good against Evil Side. Now let's have a talk about Theoden's weaknesses. I think his number one weakness is that he is kind of vulnerable to bursty damage like from Convener. Convener is giving the units initiative, which means that Theoden doesn't get to hit first. The Witch King will Convener hard. He has initiative. He will make it so that his alchemists and corsairs will hit first, and that fire damage is really burning through the horse meat. And speaking of the burning, that is his second weakness, being elemental damage. I just named fire damage as an example, but he still has no poison coverage as well as no focus coverage. You will need to give him some gear that is covering his elemental weakness. His third weakness would be that he is kind of vulnerable against CC, be it madness or stun. But I think his madness vulnerability is more of an issue since, look at this, he is boosting everything he has to increase the damage of his army. That means when his army gets affected by madness, his own boosting abilities are going to hit himself. So this is why I am kind of scared against madness, which is also why I always equip my horseman's helmet with madness immunity. His fourth weakness would be the evade function. Evade or dodge, call it what you want, but you know what I mean. Like Grimar can evade, the Undying can evade. Like everything with evade is going to evade the strong burst damage you can provide, or the strong damage you have in general. You can't deal damage when they evade, right? And we don't have any pursuit item yet, and I'm not sure if we can provide that in our itemization part. We can't cover every of our weaknesses. His last weakness would be that he is relying on mounted units only. That means we have high upkeep costs, and we can't fight for a long period against Evil Side with these costs. You will come to understand that like a T1 commander such as Khaldun with cheap infantry units such as Halberdiers are countering you hardcore, or Witch Kings wiping you out with fire damage. So while they get to continue fighting, you need to wait until you have conscripted new mounted units. And this is my main reason why I start to believe I shouldn't play Theoden against Evil Side anymore. I have more loses than I am killing, and I think that will be the meta for the future. Like, I truly believe that many Theoden mains, when fighting Evil Side, they will just stop playing Theoden, unless they have the gear I'm about to show to you. I still don't know how the battle reports are going to change once you can get a hold of this gear I'm about to show you. So here we are at my purple gear recommendation, and if I were you and I don't know what I'm supposed to equip, I would be getting this gear for my Theoden. I think this is best in slot gear for him in regards to purple gear. Cutlass, kind of self-explanatory, might and speed, and also plus attack, and also melee might. Everything is useful here. This is best in slot stats. Then, this is kind of situational. Like, if you are fighting against Evil Side, please get the superior Hauberk with fire protection, so you don't experience a surprise against Witch Kings. The Witch Kings are the main reasons why you have so many mounted units dead, and with this, you can hold your ground. If you're fighting against good side, you might have to choose between Quilted Armor or the Scout's Mail. Quilted Armor will help you with focus protection against focus damage, like the Oathbreakers from the King of the Dead, or against Keepers. In Gil-galad, sometimes he uses Keepers as well. But if you aren't afraid of elemental damage, just go over to Scout's Mail. Maybe with Shroud, but Shroud can be countered by Pursuit. But then you can still switch over to another special effect called Deftness. I haven't listed it here, but Deftness is increasing your speed stat. And as a helmet, I would be using the Horseman's Helmet. You have now two choices, the first one being Resolve, that's the Madness immunity one. And also there is Warding. Right now I haven't listed it here, but yeah, it is there. Warding will give you stun immunity. If you have the Superior Hauberk with Fire Protection, you could equip Horseman's Helmet with Warding to counter Witch Kings. If you don't want to focus on a Witch King counter, just keep the Superior Hauberk, risk being stunned in the first round, but still keep Resolve to counter, let's say, Grimars or Saurons. And this is the point of this. This is a very good, very reliable Madness counter. As our accessory, I have decided to go with Hiflane. This is giving us HP and also some self-sustain. If you are kinda wondering how to counter Pursuit, you could also equip the Wizard's Firework with Hunter's Mark. That has Pursuit on it. Now let's have a look at his golden gear, or in my regards his best in slot high-end gear. I have now many possibilities listed over here. At the top, I have listed the Reach of the Riddermark. Now you get to choose between two special effects. Do you want to go all in with damage, then go with Might of Cavalry? Or do you want to counter certain army compositions, or rely a bit too much on luck, but whenever that luck is on your side, maybe you get a much better report? And let me level with you for a second. So at Respect 5, if you spend 1 point into Theoden's skill, which gives Theoden initiative, you get to attack first even against Convener. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but this is my assumption. Giving that 1 point into that skill gives Theoden initiative. With that initiative, you get to hit first with Battered. Imagine if you hit first against Convener of the Witch King. You hit the Alchemist and this procs against the Alchemist. That would take away a big chunk of the Witch King's damage. Don't get me wrong, like, I know that we have a lot of luck barriers that have to be overcome. Like, the first luck barrier is this effect proccing at all. The second luck factor would be the Witch King is running 3 different units in his armies. And the likelihood of us hitting the Alchemist are like only 33%. But it is still there. I just wanted to put this out. Let's continue. So against evil side, I would definitely keep my Superior Hauberk with Fire Protection. But against good side, I could go with the Ranger's Shroud with Resistance, just to have some elemental coverage as well. But if you really need to cover against elemental damage, like against Focus, you should go back to your Quilted Armor. This is just an option, but I think the high-end solution against focus damage is still the Quilted Armor. As our helmet and accessory options, I have a few options available here. So the Cask of Submerged Isle will cover our Madness and Stun immunity. That would leave us open to equip the Fiddle of the Eldest, which will give us initiative. And please, anyone out there, do you know if Blitz's initiative gives you priority over the Witch King's Convener initiative? Like, if yes, I think that is more the reason to go with the Fiddle of the Eldest. Since now you get to hit first, you get to hit first with your commander as well to mitigate the damage that the Alchemist might do against you. You also get to snowball against the Witch King. Imagine you hit hard, you hit first, you decimate the number of the Alchemist, which means that you in return will eat less damage, have more of your mounted units survive to snowball them even more. So this is the logic behind my thinking. But there is also another route, and this route would mean that you are going this route over here, like with the Bone Mask and with the Meara's Reigns. The Bone Mask has Manipulate, and this effect is mitigating damage as well, like Battered. And this is giving a big chunk of damage mitigation. Imagine this procs against the Alchemist. You would have 2 sources that mitigate a lot of Witch King burst damage. Battered Assault as well as Manipulate. 2 chances of enabling your survival. And in regards to your Stun and Madness weakness, you don't have to worry, since when you go this route, you still have the Meara's Reigns with Fearless Cavalry. This will give you a 100% chance to be immune against Stun and Madness once it is maxed out. These are my ideas. This is my theory. I still need to gather all of this gear, max it out, and then see where it leads me. But guys, I'm really interested in your opinion. What do you think about my strategies over here? Do you have a better idea? Please let me know in the comments. This leads me to my final question. Does it make sense to invest into Theoden's Respect 10 item? When you are in Rohan, I think it could maybe make sense since you have access to Cavaliers and Marshals, but then you are kinda bound to play Rohan non-stop. And also what I don't like about this is it's giving you HP to your mounted units instead of plus attack. So for me, this is a no-go. I would still stick to my Reach of the Riddermark. I consider this better. I have multiple Reach of the Riddermarks in the late game. I will have Might of Cavalry as well as Battered Assault to go back and forth between these effects whenever I need to switch these effects. And I'm kinda more biased towards Battered. I think this is very underestimated. Here I am fighting against a very strong Khaldun. My Theoden has again the same gear, and I'm still in the spec against good side. My Sworn Knights, they have Haven, and this in my opinion makes Gondor among the strongest faction in Season 5. Guys, like please, Haven, damage received minus 15% after being healed. Lasts for 2 rounds, can stack 2 times. That means you can have it all the way up to 30% damage mitigation, which is huge. And that also makes sense for the Sworn Knights, since these guys are your tanks. They protect every other unit in your army for the first 3 rounds, while also boosting their own defensive stat. So you just need to boost their elemental damage coverage. Like, these guys need definitely something that covers against fire damage. But still, we are losing the fight. This is a Khaldun. Khaldun, just a T1 commander, is so strong that he can go toe-to-toe against one of the strongest good side commanders. Khaldun has this gear. He's got a worn-out smoking pipe with sustain. He's got the Cask of Pride with Fortitude of Soldiers, and not even wailed out gear, right? But still, he is winning like this. He is winning against us, and this is kind of making me believe that Theoden, after Season 2, has outlived his usefulness against wailed out people. And this guy has even Dragoons in his army comp. Imagine if he had Halberdiers, anti-cavalry. That too is a weakness of Theoden. So Khaldun is taking this win, and we would lose even bigger against Halberdiers. Alright, here I am fighting as Sunant, and Sunant is a very strong T3 commander. So let's see what has happened here. Remember, we are in Season 5. I am abusing a mechanic right now. The mechanic is Haven. I get to proc this effect first to have lots of damage mitigation, so these guys can tank for my damage dealers, my Cavaliers and my Bow Knights. How do I do that? I do it with the worn-out smoking pipe. Here it is. Sustain. AoE healing. This procs in the first round. This starts at the very beginning of the fight. We got minus 15 damage right from the get-go. An additional one with Aorit Leader, which will proc in round 1 as well. So minus 30 damage mitigation in round 1. And Sunint, of course, is doing what she can. She has the champions to mitigate incoming damage. She has some Dragoons over here. Imagine if she had some Halberdiers over here. It would be much better for her against us. But she's trying the Morgul Arbalest build. She wants to deal physical damage as well as poison damage. And it's working okay. Like, this is okay. She just needed to fill in some Halberdiers, and I think then she could have devastated us. So Wally has this gigantic hammer. This has lots of plus attack. Quilted armor with focus protection, Trapper's Hood, the Hysteria, and Wizard's Firework. So consider the fact that this person has still room to improve his gear. And I think once that person is done with that and picks some Halberdiers, we are done. Let's also analyze this battle from an economy standpoint. So Theoden, We have 3 mounted units, all take a lots of resources and time to conscript, while Wally has only 1 mounted unit and only a few numbers of these. So this isn't hurting her economy as ours. And then if she were to fill in halberdiers, that's just an infantry troop. I think from an economy standpoint, we would be losing this fight since there is still room for improvement, but once those points have been taken care of, I think Wally will win. Like, good job, Wally. With this gear, you have done so much damage to my economy. Alright guys, now here is a Witch King fight. We all were waiting for this, and this Witch King has outstandingly good gear. But let's first look into my Theoden. I am still in the spec against a good side. I have my worn out smoking pipe just to get the damage mitigation with my Swan Knights going on right from the get-go. And this is the result we have. The Witch King has only 2 hard to conscript units. And the alchemists are very easy to conscript, while I have only these. And guys, this is only within Season 5, please keep that in mind. If this wasn't Season 5 and if it wasn't for the Swan Knights with Haven, we would have lost this fight and it would look much different. Like, you can't even compare it with this. And this is the gear of the Witch King. Penalty of Orphan with Tactical Mark. Baby, I am still looking for that special effect to drop. Lucky devil. Really, you are lucky, man. And also Cask of Submerged Isle. Ooh, with Aegis. Bis item all in all. Another Bis item over here. Warborn Battleplate. Fortitude of Soldiers. Man, this guy? Like, these pieces are best in slot for him. There isn't anything better for him. In regards to PvP. Cutlass. Wow, this is just my opinion, but I think this is best in slot. Alright, and here is a fight against Sauron, and I think this is where Theoden really shines. He is good against countering madness commanders such as Sauron or Grimar. Right now, I have equipped the Aegis, and I was lucky with the madness immunity procs. If you can get this all the way up to 100% resistance, then you're good to go. And this is the gear of the Sauron. Spear of Udun with Blight. Okay. But I think there might be better options than this. Scale Mail with Melee Vigor. Hunter's Guide with Aegis. Okay. Worn out Smoking Pipe. So this guy could get even better gear. And then we can see how we will fight against him. Here is a report which is very rare, since you don't get to fight a Zagrid every day. Which is why I must thank you, Battle King of Angmar, since you volunteered to get these reports. Let's look at his gear. He has Easterling Spear with Pierce right now. He has the Scale Mail with Gallant. And Brutal Helmet with Melee Vigor. Alright, overall this gear is okay. And Zagrid is considered a commander who is a good counter against mounted units, especially when we consider this skill over here, Enemy of the Rohirrim. Against one enemy target deals a certain percentage damage, and against one random mounted unit deals an additional 300% damage every 3 rounds. In addition to that, he has werewolves, and these guys are specialized in killing mounts. Look at this. Against mounted units and beasts, damage received minus 40%. They are very resilient against mounted units. So just by looking at these stats, I would assume that Zagrid would win this fight, but he didn't, which is because of the Swan Knights and Haven. This is Season 5's Gondor's strongest point, in my opinion. Haven. You get so much damage mitigation with this effect, and here you see proof. Like, we have won this fight, this isn't even a draw. And just to show you, just to prove you my point, let me replace my Swan Knights with Cataphracts. Do you see how the report has changed now? My Cataphracts have Remedy, and I'm dealing additional damage whenever I get healed. But that is still not good enough in comparison to my Swan Knights report, right? In this report I'm fighting Grimar, and don't get me wrong, I think I did a big mistake. I shouldn't have equipped the Aegis, because I have a Horseman's Helmet with 100% madness immunity. Right now, like, the effect of this Aegis wasn't high enough to protect me from madness, which is why we have kind of lost this fight in this way, right? It may state that this is a draw but again, from an economy standpoint, this is a loss. So either you fight with a Cask of Submerged Isle 5 times refined, or just stick to your Horseman's helmet, since you can get that helmet to 5 times refined much faster than this. And here is the gear of the Screamer. He has his Respect 10 item, 3 times strengthened and refined. The Scale Maim with melee vigor, of course. Bone Mask with Hysteria. And the Worn Out Smoking Pipe with Sustain. Alright, I'm just kind of curious why he hasn't committed more into his Madness build. I thought that this is the point of Grimoire, but maybe I'm wrong. What do you Grimoire mains think about this build right now? Does this make sense against Theoden? Now let this be my last report over here. I am fighting against another Khaldun, but this time I have switched to my Evil Sight build, and as you see, this is much better in comparison to my first Khaldun fight in this video. Yeah, and I'm not quite sure if it is because of this build or if it is because of the fact that Khaldun has Dragoons in his army comp and that isn't doing him any good. Like, imagine if he had, let's say, his champions over here. I think that would have hurt us maybe even more. To finish this video, let me give you in conclusion. I have been playing Theoden for 5 seasons right now. In season 1 and 2, he was doing an exceptionally good job against good side, which he is still keeping up to do. Even in later seasons, Theoden is still good against good side. But when you are playing against evil side, please make sure to cover his elemental damage weakness and then try again. See if your reports are promising. Try to experiment around with the gear I have recommended in this video. See if the theory is also working out in practice. Will I be fighting with my Theoden against evil side? No. Right now, I think the main reason why is his high upkeep costs. I can't sustain long fights like that. But if I have the economy, I can afford it for some reason because we have higher numbers and the enemy is just being pushed away by the sheer number of players, maybe then it's okay. But right now, I think I will be going back to my infantry troops and stepping back from my Theoden. This is Season 5. Season 5 of Swan Knights and Haven was a blast. I can just only warm-heartedly recommend this, try it out. I think there isn't anything where Theoden will be stronger than this. Swan Knights with Haven is enabling Theoden so much, especially with Bone Knights and Dispersion. This is a crazy combination. And I hope that the game devs will somehow adapt these effects into later seasons as well. It was a lot of fun playing with these abilities. But yeah, that's it from my side. I hope this video was helpful. If you enjoyed this video, let me know by leaving a like and consider subscribing. I see you guys next time.